and welcome back to The Girl with the Shovel. I am Angela, and today we're going to talk about maybe why your Chinese Evergreen isn't looking the greatest and what you can do about it. Okay, so today I'm going to start with the number one issue that most people have, which is yellow leaves. Now, yellow leaves, when I say yellow leaves, I mean soft, okay? There's a difference between brown, kind of dry, crinkly leaves and soft yellow leaves, meaning if you bend it around, it's not gonna break. There's actually more water in the leaf than there should be, and that's your problem. So yellow leaves means that your plant was overwatered, okay? And it's got too much water in the leaf. This mainly happens because of two things. First, it's because your plant doesn't have enough drainage in the soil, or maybe you're just watering it like all the time. Okay, so I would look at your watering. If you're like, hey, I don't water it that much, but it's still happening. Okay, it's probably because you have not enough drainage in your soil, or the second thing, your plant is in too low of light. I've noticed with Aglaonemas that if plants are not in enough light, then they tend to lose a lot of leaves, especially the lower ones. They'll start to turn yellow and they just kind of fall off, you know? And so what you want to do if you're losing leaves, if they're turning yellow slowly or maybe quickly, is first off, decrease your watering. Second off, move it to a little bit brighter of a location. And third, make sure that you have good drainage. Doing these three things will help make your Aglaonema stop dropping yellow leaves. Next up, we have drooping. Okay, if your plant is kind of like drooping a little bit, looking a little sad, this can be one of two different things. First, it can be an overwatering issue. Second, it could be an underwatering issue. I know, right? So to tell between the two, all you gotta do is stick your finger in the dirt. Maybe lift it out of a pot if it's in another pot and check the bottom of it too, okay? We don't wanna just check the soil on top of the pot, but also check the soil on the bottom of the pot. Make sure that there isn't any wet layers down beneath in your soil, okay? So check the soil. If it's too wet, then it's drooping because you're starting to see some root rot problems, okay? If it's too dry, then it means that you're not watering it enough and it needs a good soak, okay? So either give it a good soak, or if it's too wet, let it dry, let it air out, maybe even take it out of the pot and let that soil dry, and then you can repot it with some dry soil. Number three is brown leaves. Remember how I talked about there are yellow leaves and then there are brown leaves? Well, brown leaves are more like crispy. Okay, I know this is a photo of a syngonium, not an Aglaonema, but they look pretty similar. If it's like crispy here, then your plant is too dry. It's not getting enough water. Okay, especially if you moved it into a bit brighter light, you want to be watering it more. But make sure it has good drainage. You want that water to be able to go down and out and not stay in that soil, causing rot problems. And then you can also check out my video on how to water your houseplants, specifically about top watering and bottom watering. If your Aglaonema is really that dry that it's starting to lose leaves because they're like brown and crispy, then specifically think about bottom watering, giving it a good soak every now and again. Next up, quite a few of you have said that your leaves are curling on your Aglaonema. Okay, for curling leaves, this is simply the plant saying, hey, I'm kind of stressed out. I'm not liking this. I'm gonna kind of curl up, save my energy. So this is a sign of stress. Once again, I would check your soil. Okay, this is where a lot of our problems come from. Check your soil, see if it's too dry or too wet. Okay, it's most likely one of the two. Also, could be too dry and kind of like a heat stress. Sometimes if there's like a heater blowing on your plant, it can cause it to curl up and be like, oh, I don't like this. So make sure you don't have it near a heater or maybe an air conditioner in the summer, but it's more likely and more often seen with that heat stress. Or like I said, it could just be your soil. Check it out. Is it too wet? Is it too dry? Is it in that nice sweet spot in the middle? That's where we want to be. Okay, and fifth, we have leggy or not bushy enough. Okay, we all buy these wonderful Aglaonema plants because they are gorgeous foliage plants. They're nice, full when we buy them, and then we bring them home, and then leaves start going here after the next, and then we end up getting a leggy plant. Or maybe it's growing really tall and it's just not producing many leaves. Okay, either way, it's the same problem. It is not enough light, and then if you have enough light, could be not enough fertilizer. Okay, so we want to make sure that we switch out our soil, we give it fresh soil, which usually comes with fresh fertilizer in fresh nutrients in the soil. But the thing is, if we're not continually feeding it, then it won't have enough energy to produce those gorgeous leaves. Okay, so that could be a problem. But first, make sure that you have enough light. Okay, a lot of people sell these plants as low light plants. And do they do okay with low light? Yes, they do. I mean, I actually just had an Aglaonema, white edge, that I put in a low light location because I knew it would do well and it would fill up the space. And it did great. And it's been about a year, and now I'm gonna give it some TLC. For that, I'm gonna do some propagation, repot it into some better soil. You can watch that video, the propagation video here. So if your plant is becoming leggy, move it into brighter light, then make sure that you're fertilizing it. Then I would consider propagating it to fill it out a little bit more. Okay, and then the last of the problems here that I have seen is yellow leaf tips. Okay, yellow leaf tips can be one of two things. It can either be not enough humidity in your home, so make sure that you're giving it more humidity, or you're putting it somewhere where there is a bit more humidity, like a bathroom or a kitchen that has enough light, once again, or you're putting it by other houseplants. It'll kind of get the little greenhouse effect. Or you can also put it on a pebble tray with some water in the bottom where that water will evaporate, give it a little bit more humidity. And then also, I know sometimes when you're living in dry locations, I know I lived in New Mexico for summer, very dry, and you know, you just trim off the little yellow edges. Just trim them off, give them a little clean here and there, and it'll be fine. There isn't too much more you can do other than buying a humidifier for your plants. Some of you will do that, some I know you don't want to go there. That's okay, not gonna judge, but know that that's usually what's happening. Second off, it could be excess minerals and chlorine in your water. So if you're watering it with tap water, I would recommend maybe switching it to distilled or getting a filter. You could check out my video here. I tested the water filter that I now use every time I water my plants, and I put in a whole bunch of chlorine and saw if it got it out, and it did. Check out that video here. So that's what I use, but if you wanna just go ahead and switch out your watering, your water, not just using tap water, I know your plants will definitely like filtered or distilled water better. And now for an extra bonus. I know quite a few of you said, I want more shoots on my Aglaonema. I want it to kind of bush out a little bit more. I want it to look more full. Okay, we talked a little bit about that earlier, but I want to touch specifically for people who want it to be a little more full, who want a little more shoots. They aren't seeing it spread like they say Aglaonemas do inside of a pot. Okay, a few things. One, you can add more light, right? So you see a trend here, okay? But don't put it in direct sunlight. These guys don't really like direct sunlight very much. So medium, bright, indirect light, or maybe some direct sunlight in like cooler temperatures, like in the wintertime, or if you live in a cool region, then maybe your summer temperatures aren't too hot for it in that direct sunlight. But make sure that you don't give it hot direct sunlight or you'll see some leaf scorch, which is also not a good look on these guys. Trust me. So move it into some brighter light. Then I would consider, if you want more shoots, check the soil. Check to see if the roots are in any of these root cages that I like to call them. You can check out my video on repotting your Aglaonema. I actually bought some that have these root cages, didn't produce any shoots. Now I'm gonna cut them off, set them free, and now they're gonna take off. So you check out that video, and then also consider propagating, okay? A lot of our plants go up and they grow up, especially inside. They don't have as much light, and so they're like, oh, if I just keep growing taller, I'm gonna get more light. And we know that's not true because the sun is not above us when we have our ceilings here. But so it keeps growing up, but if we cut that tip, I'm doing doubles because there are lots of Aglaonemas in every pot usually. If we cut that tip off, then it will say, oh, up is no longer an option. So it'll start sending off more lateral growth, as well as it'll stimulate the roots to send out more down below. Okay, so if we cut that top, that tall, leggy top, then it will help our plant eventually get more bushy. It'll take some time, especially if it doesn't have much fertilizer or light. Okay, it'll take some time, but hopefully you are going to increase your light and you're going to increase your fertilizer, and then these guys are going to be wonderful. And in a few months, you're going to have a much more bushy, healthy looking plant with maybe some little shoots sticking out of the soil for you. So I hope you liked this video. I hope it answered all of your questions about what the heck is going on with your plant, with your Chinese Evergreen. And if you need more information, feel free to check out my website, thegirlwiththeshovel.com. I've got some posts there with even more detailed information about Aglaonema plant care, repotting, propagation, everything you want to know, as well as you can download some free care pages for Chinese Evergreen you can have on hand to reference anytime anything goes on with your Chinese Evergreen. So make sure that you hit the thumbs up and subscribe so you continue getting awesome plant care information and you keep growing in this skill it is to take care of houseplants. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video.